Hey, so this week we're talking about FDR and the New Deal. So I just wanted to pop on and give you a little bit of a teacher explanation about some things that might have been unclear from your lesson, or to just do a little bit of follow up. Okay. Um, so Franklin Roosevelt believed in what we call social welfare, which is the belief that the government should provide citizens with a minimum level of services. Okay, so sometimes we hear that word welfare, we hear that on the news, and when we hear that, most of the time people are talking about um, providing citizens with financial aid, right? So providing citizens with some sort of money for them to be able to live a certain level of lifestyle. So that is it's about making sure that that all of society is well, right, and the government is responsible for making sure of that. So Roosevelt believed that during the Great Depression we needed to take direct action, that the government needed to do something and do it quickly and not kind of um, beat around the bush with it, but really just get to work on helping citizens. He believed that the government should play a larger role in business. So we understand from the end of the Great Depression why a president might say, okay, wait, it's time for the government to get a little more involved in this and to make sure that we are doing what we were supposed to be doing. He also believed in temporarily closing the banks to reduce panic and increase stability. So, um, last week you guys learned about the Great Depression and the stock market crash and how all of that sort of ended up in a society of panic surrounding economics, which continued to create the issues that were being or exacerbate, right, heighten the issues that the Great Depression had created. So he believed that we should close the banks and temporarily, not forever, but temporarily, to kind of let people get their groove back in, to get settled and reduce that panic. Okay. And then he believed that we should initiate what he called the New Deal, which focused on three major ideas: relief, recovery, and reform. And we'll talk about those next. Okay. So the New Deal was FDR's plan for economic recovery. Okay, so he believed that there should be a series of economic programs. It wasn't just one thing, it was a series of programs. And it was aimed at relief for the poor, which was a good majority of our country at this point, right? Most of our country was living in poverty, in extreme poverty, and unemployment. Okay, reform for banking and economic systems. He's like, okay, the banking and economic systems in our country are problematic and we need to make sure that we fix those things. And then finally, he believed that we needed recovery for the nation in terms of finding employment and moving our country forward. Okay, so the New Deal created what we know as alphabet agencies, or alphabet soup agencies, to help accomplish the three R's of relief, recovery, reform. Right. So the FDIC. If you've been to a bank ever, you have walked past a sign that says FDIC. It says member of the FDIC. Okay, this was a Banking and Regulations Oversight Committee, right? The Federal Deposit Insurance Commission, and it assured citizens that if they had money in the bank, it was insured up to $200,000. So if you had more than $200,000, not insured, but still the FDIC is at work, so we can put our money in banks and know if there's an economic crisis that our money is insured. We won't lose our money. Okay, the Social Security Administration was elderly citizens relief. Okay, at the beginning, it was relief for these elderly citizens, because prior to the Social Security Administration coming into play, then if the elderly became too old to be able to care for themselves or to be able to still work, then they would have to move in with family members or become wards of the state. And so Social Security helped provide an income for our elderly citizens, so that they could continue to live um, their lives as more independent citizens. Okay, the SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission, that's the Stock Market Oversight Committee. right? So obviously we had a problem with our stock market. We needed some work to be done on that. We needed a commission to oversee what was going on and to make some rules concerning how the stock market worked. And that's what the SEC did. Okay, so we see FDIC, SEC, those are banking, right? Reforming those banking industries. Social Security is a relief program. The PWA, the TVA, and the WPA, those are recovery and relief programs, right? So they're going to provide relief to citizens by creating employment and also creating infrastructures in our country which help our country move forward, like bridges, roads, providing electricity for impoverished citizens in rural areas. So we have all of those agencies really working diligently to get America back on its feet again through employment and through the projects that they provide in that employment. Some of these agencies still exist today. Some of them were dissolved during World War II, but we do know that some of them still exist and we still use them today. Right? So the Great Depression dragged on. We know this. It lasts a long time. The United States is not the only country suffering from the Great Depression. We talked about this last week in the Great Depression unit. Much of Europe suffered during the 20s and 30s, and this is when we really started to think about our global economy and how we all impact one another. The New Deal helped the U.S. recover from the economic crisis, but it was not really the force that got us out of the Great Depression. What got us out of the Great Depression was our entering into World War II. And the entering into World War II will come next week. We'll have a 2-week unit on World War II and the United States' role in that unit. So remember, if you have any questions, that you should join your social studies classes live instructional time or reach out to your teacher for more information.